Let's pull this story from the Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, the escalation is here. Texas Democrat calls on Biden to seize control of Texas National Guard. Rep. Joaquin Castro is calling on President Biden to take control of the Texas National Guard if the state defies a Supreme Court ruling, which it did. Governor Greg Abbott is using the Texas National Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. If Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, POTUS needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard now. He can't, by the way. Doesn't work that way. The governor has to sign off on federalization, basically saying like, okay, through me, you can give orders and we can unify. In this instance, I don't want to tell you guys, you have these people. Let me show you this tweet. This is Janai Nelson, president and direct counsel of LDF NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, saying, this is outright defiance of a Supreme Court order by a Southern governor who thinks he is above the law.
You like how they threw
if
that
federalism means anything, it means Greg Abbott must be held to account. Let me make clear.
Southern. They did
that on
like
purpose.
a dig or something.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure.
And let me make clear. What we are seeing now is Greg Abbott enforcing the law to the best of his abilities. Joaquin Castro and Democrats are lying about what's going on, saying it's chaos.
Yeah, well, he said that Greg Abbott is causing the chaos. It is chaos at the border.
They're saying
they're trying to stem the chaos.
The actions being taken to uphold federal law and state law is chaos. The Biden administration and Democrats are actively destroying this country. And I got to be honest, guys, like, I don't know. I can't mince words on this one. They are quite literally destroying the country. This is not, how do I say this? They are engaged in a seditious conspiracy to subvert the Constitution and destroy the fabric of this country. That's not hyperbole. When Ian brings up his parents who are not super politically engaged and watch MSNBC saying this is getting crazy. When I bring up Chicago and New York, because when you have major Democrat strongholds in panic over the crisis that is happening right now, and the Biden administration with a smile on his face says the border is not secure, and then tries to damage it further. There is no question we are watching a man pour lighter fluid on the fabric of this nation and set it aflame while we all scream. The outcome here, if the feds do make a move to try and seize control of the National Guard or deploy federal agents to Texas to try and stop them, guys, what do you call it when armed forces under state jurisdiction engage in active conflict with federal forces? Call it whatever you want.
I don't know if the president, I mean, he's the commander in chief of the armed forces. I don't know if the National Guard of Texas would, the Guard of Texas would.
It's not under his jurisdiction. I don't think.
Well, I mean, the feds can call them up. They've called them up and sent them overseas.
It's a question of where are these guardsmen from?
Right.
Are they residents of Texas who enlisted in Texas? I'd imagine they'd have to be, right?
Yeah, but even still, that like you don't go to the same. You still go to like Army wherever the Army does their basic training.
That doesn't mean anything. In 1861, you had West Point graduates trained in New York saying, "My home is Virginia."
Yeah.
And they said, "I will," and that's, I mean, the famous generals, "I will stand with my state."
But I don't think that people think like that anymore. So I mean.
Do you think the 19-year-old guy whose mom lives in, I don't know, Austin is going to be like, nah, I'm going to go to war with my neighbors and friends?
I have no idea what what a kid's going to do. Because there are people like, I would have said something different before January 6th last year when the feds filled up DC with, troops for no reason.
The question is, are these guardsmen from Texas and connected through community to Texas? If the answer is yes, there is no question. If the feds make a move against Texas and try to seize control of the Guard, on average, people will always just defend their friends and their families.
Yeah, you're talking about what people are likely to do. I'm wondering what the law actually says.
Apparently, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm reading this from findlaw.com, that Title 32 gives governors the authority over the Guard in their states, but then they say that Title 10 says the president can mobilize the Guard and put it under federal authority.
Yes, but under what circumstances? My understanding is the governor has to sign off on it.
If that's the case, then if the governor has to say yes, then that's the case. But yeah, I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, I think realistically, the reason this country is still alive is because states are preeminent. The federal government's an afterthought. Like, we are United States. We unite by choice.
The Civil War completely changed all of that.
Yeah, it did.
That's that you like what you're talking about is the way that the states thought of themselves prior to the Civil War, when the states still thought that they could secede.
Yeah.
Like they used to think before, like Texas in their constitution, before they joined in their constitution, I believe it says we're reserving the right to leave because Texas used to be its own country. So I think
Texas could secede theoretically.
So allegedly, I don't know that the federal government would allow it. The feds might still say no. We settled this with the Civil War. According to the federal government, the Civil War settled the question as to whether or not countries can secede. So
and no, actually, Ulysses S. Grant wrote up exactly why they cannot, and I believe he's correct. So there are certainly he's mostly correct. He wrote this great letter, and he said basically, the states of the Union sacrificed blood and treasure to admit these states to join in, and they owe a debt. To declare that they would separate while in debt is, I'm paraphrasing, but you can read the whole letter. Basically, his point is, yo, homie, I paid a bunch of money for you to come and join this crew. You can't just bow out now. You owe us. And that makes sense.
is that it? I mean,
Something to that effect is the argument being made. And so
does that mean in perpetuity?
Well, that's a good point. That's why I say mostly correct. Mostly correct being, so long as you are in a debt, pay that debt back and we'll negotiate however that is. But I do believe that ultimately it doesn't matter because Ulysses Grant also wrote, you have the right to secede, but no, if there is a debt to be paid, you will be at war, and if you lose, you'll be ruled by by the victors.
Yeah,
So his point is basically, at any point, any person, any state could declare they will no longer be part of the Union, but be prepared to fight. And if you lose, you are now under our rule.
I imagine that there would be a fight if Texas were to say, well, we're going to just kick federal troops out.
I
and it
think-
wouldn't be like leaving the Union. It would be like, obviously Florida and Texas are unified. So if there was a union, like what's the union? How many unions? Who is united exactly? Is it 49 of the states decide to unify against this stupid federal government that's gone too far? Then what's the union? The union is the people that are unifying. It's not on paper. It's like what's really happening right now.
I just find it fascinating how many people scoffed at the idea of civil war. And then even after January 6th, you still get a lot of people say January 6th was not an insurrection, but these Democrats who claim it is still scoff at the idea of civil war.
Right.
Now you have, I'm sorry, my friends, we quite literally have the lowest degree possible, but we do have armed conflict between a state National Guard and the federal government. Now I want to be careful here because I don't want people to assume armed conflict implies people are shooting at each other. What this means is both factions have deployed armed personnel and they are in conflict with each other. Meaning Texas National Guard are defying federal mandate and pushing out federal agents to take territory. The feds want that territory back. The only thing that hasn't happened is they've not decided to fight about it yet physically. But there are armed men in conflict right now trying to control certain jurisdictions. I mean, this is a powder keg.
It's certainly far more significant than January 6th was. January 6th, it was a riot that got out of hand. This is
Joe Biden is engaged in insurrection.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
well.
absolutely.
I mean, that's
Look.
fair.
I think it is definitive at this point. Joe Biden should be removed from the ballot in as many states as he can for engaging in insurrection actively right now by subverting the Constitution and engaging in a seditious conspiracy of human smuggling in defiance of even blue states.
To make any argument that Trump engaged in insurrection and to then make the argument that Biden has not is completely ridiculous and unserious.
See, I don't think the federal government is actually going to go down to Texas and seize the National Guard because I think they would legitimately have a civil war at hands because Texas would they wouldn't allow that. And so why would the federal government, especially in an election year, go down there and do something? Because then the problem would get 10 times worse. And I think to your point of, Eric Adams and 50% of the hotel rooms are taken up by illegal immigrants and we have this huge crisis in our country. Why would he continuously make it worse? So I honestly think it's a political play just to paint Texas and Greg Abbott like the bad guys
I can give
and
you
not
an
actually
answer.
do something.
Why would they make it worse? So that Donald Trump can't win an election in November.
That's true.
The purpose we were talking before the show, Ian was saying they would not be able to win a civil war. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm like, they would because the win condition is not like one side climbs the top of the hill and plants a flag. The win condition for people who hate America is to destroy the fabric of the country. Starting a civil war is the win condition for these people. Yeah, so when I hear people say like national divorce, I'm like, that will be civil war. Yeah. There is no circumstance where there is a peaceful separation of states. Impossible. Because of water rights, because of farming rights, because of highway access, because of weapon control, because of general natural resources. Which states have access to, I mean, come on. The North Dakota frack fields would become an economic powerhouse. And then you're going to have someone in a different state being like, I'm the one who paid for all of that. And they're going to say, no, you're going to get conflict for sure. Yeah. If we do, there will be no constitution anymore. Right. In the Civil War in 1861, Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus in a corridor stretching from D.C. up to Pennsylvania. The reason being, Maryland was a slave state with massive Southern sympathies. So he had members of their legislature arrested and created a corridor where they could travel between D.C. and PA so the Union could stay unified with D.C. And they would arrest anyone without charge or trial who in any way bothered them. And there was actually one guy they did. Locked him up for the duration of the war, and he gave him the middle finger and said, F you. When the war ended, they let him go, and then he just said, F you, and they're like, your charges stand. He said, F you, and he left. And then that was like, they just let it go.
Who was it?
You can read about the story. Whoa. It was crazy. Abraham Lincoln, when the war started, Constitution was gone. Yeah. If you were speaking pro-Confederacy speech, you're locked up. Done. No question. If a civil war were to break out, let me just tell you, do you guys think, let me ask you a question. The Epstein client list. Let's say there's a person, we know that they're ultra wealthy individuals and powerful. They're on the client list. Which would you think they would prefer? Having their name published in the press as to being a high profile billionaire pedophile who was working with Epstein, or civil war breaking the machine apart? What do you think these people would rather have happen?
Oh, civil war. They don't want to be exposed. Yeah, absolutely.
They don't want accountability. They don't want to get caught. They want to keep up their operations, keep up the crimes they're committing, and they'd rather the United States burn than anyone find out what they're doing.
I mean, that's what they want to destabilize Western civilization as we know it, and they want to destroy the Constitution, but that's all coming from the WEF. They've been wanting to do this for decades, of just continuously destabilize our country as we know it, take away our freedom slowly but surely. And I mean, even now, Gen Z, they're willing to do anything to make a dollar, and they don't even have a care about politics or what's going on in our country. And so you actually show them. The amount of college kids actually that I interview asking if they even know about the border crisis or how many people are coming into our country or that their taxpayer dollars are paying for it, whether it's in San Diego, California, or Texas. So many kids have no idea because they don't watch the news. All they watch is brainwashing on TikTok, and they don't actually know the crisis is going on.
You know, a lot of people have made the joke that everything started to fall apart when Epstein died. And there's a meme that around the time Epstein dies, you get the breakdown of narrative control, you get the lockdowns, people start losing their minds. Now, I certainly don't think that means that whatever Epstein was doing was the top of the mountain in terms of this deep state, or I like the new phrase that we're getting from the Kerry Lake scenario, people back east. What did he say?
Oh, what a video.
Yeah, people back east.
That guy resigned, by the way.
He did
resign. We'll definitely talk about that. But I'm wondering if whatever it is Epstein's involved in has scattered the cockroaches. Dude. And
yes.
And this is why the narrative machine is breaking, because it used to be that high profile millionaires and billionaires and politicians were all partying. And then once Epstein gets caught, they all say, every man for themselves.
Yeah. It feels like abject panic. It does feel like that, like that panic that I can't see, but I can sense that it's happening behind the scenes because it's so quiet. It's so quiet about that Epstein stuff.
Too quiet. Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, come on, we know powerful people on that list. They're going to be heads of industry. They're going to be politicians. They're going to be world leaders.
It could be Bill Clinton. Like
Prince Andrew.
Like I've heard that Bill Clinton literally flew with Epstein a bunch of times, probably got massages from 15-year-olds. God knows what else they did. I'm not know if probably is the right word, but like that, if it was Bill, if you found the Bill Clinton of all people, it's like the grossest underage sex scandal on earth. And then you're implicating people like Bill, like what is that?
Bro, Prince Andrew is photographed with one of the
Prince
victims.
of England.
Yeah.
Prince of the United Kingdom. Dang, I mean, this is already that serious. Think about how look, man, you look at like the Emirates, you look at, Saudi Arabia, you look at the wealth that's down there. You think these people aren't also connected? And I'm not saying all of them. I'm just saying there are criminal, corrupt people with massive amounts of power probably working with Epstein. Epstein, the whole thing's broken. Whatever machine they had running. I'm not saying it was the machine. I'm not saying it was the deep state, but too many people associated with powerful industry and government were involved in that, and they're scattering like cockroaches. The light got turned on and they rushed to the corners of the room, and now there's nothing maintaining the facade.
I mean, I feel like the Epstein was an intel asset, and so I mean that's kind of what would happen that's what you would expect to happen if he actually did have information on powerful people and stuff like that, and they were using it as state secrets to get compliance or whatever. They're gonna try to squash the list. That intel agencies don't want anyone to know about what they're doing ever. Like that's just everything is as secret as they can get.
I was picturing, Tim, you were talking about Epstein getting off the plane with like some dude. I'll keep using Bill Clinton or whoever it was, some random guy. And he's like, you like her a lot, man? Yeah, she really likes you. She's 15, bro. We got you. And then like Epstein just seizes alpha control of Bill Clinton or whoever, the emotional control. Yep. And then they're like, what? I can't even say he's got this thing that I don't want him to have because it's like, can't even acknowledge that he's got the thing.
I mean, I imagine it's like he's on the plane because the reports are that the girls were on the planes, and he invites someone like Clinton or whoever it may be. They're sitting on the plane, and then they say like, hey, meet this hot young thing. And then she starts working on him. And then once she's done, he says, hey, take a look at the TV screen. We got a movie we're going to play. And then he plays the video of it happening. And he goes, by the way, she's 15.
We got all of it, man. And just like the balls that Epstein had.
And then as soon as you say that politician, that corporate officer or whatever, they start sweating profusely. Like, well, what do you mean? It's like, don't worry, relax. I'm going to call you and tell you what you need to do when I need you to do it. But everything should be fine. You work for us now.
And who does
Imagine
he
how
work
many
for?
people are bought in this country that we have no idea about. And I don't think we're ever going to actually see the entire list because once they're all implicated and, I think they should go to prison for the rest of their lives, it's going to cause so much havoc in our country. And they don't want that list to come out. Nobody does.
No. Like that's my whole feeling on the whole intel thing. Like as long as it's connected to intelligence, you're going to have media and governments doing everything they can to shut it down.
And what would they rather have? The list coming out with their names on it or a civil war?
Civil war. Plus,
And
I think they know the list.
And let's not even say civil war, to be honest. Would destabilization to the point where there is no power able to hold them accountable. Let me put it this way. If this country, if Donald Trump wins come November, and then the list does come out, Bill Clinton's on it, do you think Democrats would believe or care or even try to go after Clinton?
No.
They would lie about what's going on. They would say Donald Trump fabricated a list to try and go after his political rivals.
Dude.
That's it. This is why the Boston Globe published that story where they said Democrats war gamed out what would happen in 2020. And in the event Donald Trump were to win, they would encourage West Coast states to secede from the union. This literally happened. It's Boston Globe. This story comes out in I think mid 2020. This is where we are now. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.